Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bill Baker with Firestorm, and we're pleased to have you joining us for this, our first one in the 2017 series of our Crisis Coach webinars. Today we're going to be discussing benchmarking preparedness. We'd also like to have you as our friend on Facebook. We're Firestorm Solutions. You can follow us on Twitter, Firestorm Soul. There is a hashtag. That hashtag is Crisis Coach. Firestorm transforms crisis into value and empowers you to manage your risks and crises. Firestorm expertise is crisis management, critical decision support, crisis communications, crisis public relations, and consequence management. We do want to remind you that today's presentation is not complete without the accompanying oral comments and discussion. In addition, this information should be discussed in conjunction with advice from your organization's personal counsel. This information should not be considered legal advice or legal opinion. The New Jersey MEP has been our webinar series underwriter for the last several years. We're delighted to have them. And I believe we have Joe Caratanudo on with us. Joe, are you there?
Yes, I am, Bill. Thank you. Yes, for those that are not familiar, NJMEP is a not-for-profit whose mission is to focus on assisting small and mid-sized manufacturers and helping them become more productive, more efficient, and more globally competitive. And we do it through a host of different services that we offer, everything from energy management to getting R&D credits for manufacturers to Lean, Six Sigma process improvements, as well as compliance issues like ISO certifications and transportation and logistics spending, in addition to obviously business continuity planning, which is our reason for being here today. So Bill, back to you.
Good. And there's a beautiful picture of Joe. You can see how good looking he is.
He is.
We also have our very own Blair Neville. Blair, are you there?
Yeah, Bill, I am. Thank you. And I just want to take a moment and thank Joe and the New Jersey MEP for their support of this program. We are probably in our third year of doing this with the MEP, and the response has been tremendous. We have a consistent number of people on a monthly basis. Topics are always interesting. And, I want to thank Karen for taking her time to do this for us this week, and looking forward to learning a little bit more about benchmarking and measurement. And I'm excited for this presentation as well as the subsequent 11 this year. So again, Joe, thank you for your support in this, and I know it's worthwhile for the clients.
Good. We have two moderators and presenters today. Our very own Karen Masullo. She's our Chief Intelligence Officer, and what an intelligent person she is. With Karen.
I'm sorry.
Karen is well known for her training and her social media skills. She's very adept at this kind of information. And we're also pleased to have Linda Lawn with us. Linda is new to our organization, but she brings a wealth of experience to Firestorm, and she's the Executive Vice President of Consulting Services. Welcome to both of the ladies today. And Karen, Linda, over to you, please.
Thanks so much, Bill. And very happy to have Linda with us. And you at the New Jersey MEP are the first to hear that news. So you have to go, shh, it's a secret. We're formally announcing Linda's joining Firestorm very shortly. And as they say, a corporate secret is one you tell one person at a time. So we're excited. We think there's going to be some fabulous things for Firestorm in the business continuity world coming forward. Linda is also the Linda, I'm going to let you talk about your background just a little bit and your 2016 designation, if you don't mind.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you for the warm introduction, and hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here with you today. Yeah, I bring 20-plus years of business continuity and disaster recovery experience to Firestorm as both a consultant and, most importantly, as a program manager. I've managed and built programs all over the world. The last 17 years, I was with the IBM Corporation, and I'm really glad to be talking to manufacturers because my first plan I wrote those many years ago was for a manufacturer of distilled spirits. And living in Kentucky, you can understand why that makes a lot of sense. But over the years, I just resonate with manufacturing because you're making something. And over the years, I've worked with aerospace, industrial equipment, telecoms equipment manufacturers. I've even worked with people who make scents, aromas, and eyewear and paper goods. So I'm really excited to be talking with you today and look forward to a long association. Thanks, Karen.
And you are also the 26.
26. Yeah, it's a long one, so I know why she's passing it. The Business Continuity Institute, which is one of 2 global certification boards, awarded me the Global Business Continuity Professional of the Year for the private sector last year. And very shortly, it was really due to my last 4-year assignment with IBM, where I helped simplify and globalize their entire program, over 1,100 locations in 175 countries. So that's
all.
my last. That's my last T-shirt that I bring to the closet, I guess.
Well, we're thrilled to have you with us today. Linda is going to be jumping in as we walk through this presentation because this is definitely her knowledge base. And as always, I love talking to New Jersey. I love talking to our manufacturers in New Jersey. If you have any questions during the session and we're able to get to them, please use the GoToWebinar chat console. It should be on the right side of your screen. You can type anything in there you'd like to. And if we are unable to answer the question during the session, we will respond via email personally afterward. You can reach out to us via email at webinars@firestorm.com. And as always, we will upload this particular presentation to our YouTube channel at YouTube Continuity Experts and under the New Jersey MEP playlist. As well, at the end of this presentation, within about 48 hours, there should be a brief prepared that will cover all of the salient points of this session. And thank you again for joining us and welcome to 2017. And as we talk about walking into 2017 and identifying that we have for the past 2 or 3 years been working to strengthen our plans, look at our programs, make sure we have done our vulnerability assessments in a way that's appropriate for your organizations. Let's start fresh again in 2017 and say, okay, all of the work that we've done over the past couple of years, how do we know it's effective? How do we know it's working? And are we sure that our people are ready and aware of what we need to do? Because in that way, you then can begin to identify what your organization's next crisis may be, because you will have the time to sit down with your teams and think through various scenarios. So rather than being reactive, we're certainly going to be proactive and be able to be future seers ourselves. And that's simply a matter of being prepared and having the room to think. So when we talk about this, we really want to think about, let's start at the ground floor of your organization and say, are the employees within your organization safe? And are you sure, and how do you know? And we have a couple of different pieces and parts of this that we want to think about. I was working with a manufacturing firm at one time, and it was a poultry processing plant. And certainly the risks that were evaluated on the manufacturing floor were very different from those 7 miles up the road at corporate headquarters. And so we want to make sure that while we are looking at managing our risks, that everybody understands the various processes and evaluation methods that are used in order to correctly identify for different properties, people, and processes what those risks may be, and that they're correctly evaluated. Linda, do you have some comments on this particular slide as we start off through this process?
Well, again, I think you're right on, Karen, that January is a fantastic month to start some introspection, right? We do it personally. We're all probably on some kind of health kick, or we're living out our resolutions. And looking at your program in January is a great way to get started. And the benchmarking techniques that we're going to be talking about today are ones that you can take back to your desk immediately and start applying at each of your locations. Because management has expectations. And when I talk to management in any industry for the last 20 years, really it comes down to one burning question. Are we ready? Mm-hmm. And are you sure, right? And it's all about making sure that you can assure your executives, because everybody reports to somebody, even the CEO, and they just want to be able to confidently respond to clients, stakeholders, and regulators if necessary, that yes, we are ready. And benchmarking is the tool that we're going to give you today to make sure that you can confidently respond to who you report to.
You know, and Linda, when I was thinking about doing this session today, I was thinking about something that Ann Pickren said to me about 5 years ago. And it was really around the idea of, are the business continuity folks at the table? Are they even at the table in the conversation? So one of the underlying things I'd like us to talk about and think about throughout this session, if you are a business continuity professional, are you at the table? Do you have a seat at the table? Do you have management and the board's ear? If you are in senior level management or on the board on this call, I'm asking you, do you have a seat at your table for your business continuity folks? And I think that level of communication continuity is really important. So why are we going to measure at all? What are we measuring against? Well, the first thing we really want to look at is, can your organization survive a disruption or a crisis? And how are you defining that? Are we looking at a guarded, elevated, or severe? And those are our Firestorm's hazard matrix. What level of a crisis or a business disruption are we talking about? If there were a major transportation challenge and 50 to 60% of your employees could not physically get to work, if there was a communicable illness outbreak. We just read today there is a norovirus outbreak in the Midwest, and in a school system 800 students didn't attend. So if 800 of your employees were unable to come to work, could you survive that disruption? What about a disruption with your supply chain or your supplier's suppliers? If there's a critical piece or part. In West Virginia 3 years ago, when there was a chemical leak and a poisoning of key water service, it significantly affected manufacturers who used water in their processes. So the trickle-down effect throughout was quite severe. How will you measure where your organization stands today in terms of preparedness, readiness, training? Have you done a gap analysis? Do you understand what and where you need improvements in your program? For the initiatives that you started last year, you put the budget in, you got them funded, you have the resources available, you got people working on stuff. How much progress are you making in those initiatives? Are they on plan? Are they on target? Do your plans currently follow best practices? And do you know what best practices are? Has your organization made it a priority to make sure your folks are learning best practices? What should be your priorities? If you have a list of priorities but aren't sure how to prioritize your priorities, where are you going to start? Again, have you looked at that gap analysis? And have you gone through this process with your suppliers? And are your suppliers prepared? And we really encourage you to look at your suppliers' suppliers. So when we talk about measurement, the first thing we're going to do is just simply build a roadmap. We're going to have a starting point. We're going to figure out how long it takes, what the distance is to the next place we're going. We're going to look at best and alternate routes, and then figure out how we're going to measure that progress. So we keep it simple. And then let's talk about specifically what should you measure. Linda, would you like to talk to a little bit on this?
Well, sure, I can pick up from here, absolutely. You know, the why is very important. Again, we're answering to our management, are we ready? So when you look at the data points that need to be across your entire program, there's a lot of moving pieces. So building a comprehensive picture that really tells management in a business language that yes, you're ready. So you want to make sure that you can demonstrate your preparedness. And absolutely, quantitative metrics like how many plans are done, how many tests have I conducted, how many plans have been maintained, how many people have been trained, those are absolutely valid metrics to evaluate and look at. But there's also maybe more qualitative ones that really speak to your overall readiness. And if you can speak in business languages, then you're going to have their attention. And as you move out and begin to build that entire picture, then you have a really solid story to take to your leadership. One of the stories that I spoke to leadership in my last job was I responded to over, and it's getting back to your suppliers point, Karen. In my role with the internal program, I responded to over 60 inquiries from people who relied upon us. And I'm sure the folks on the phone get these inquiries every once in a while too. That's more than one a week. And the entire, you know, they're all asking us as the people that depend on us as their manufacturer, are you ready? So what you should measure is absolutely making sure that you have all those quantitative as well as qualitative points in place.
And I think, thank you very much, Linda. I think these last two bullets too are of great interest. And that is, we want your plans to cover not just what to do, but how to do it. We have found throughout our now 11 years that many folks say, well, yeah, you know, the plan's over there. I mean, we can grab it if we need it. And it might say, you know, do A, B, C, and D, but it doesn't really explain how to go about doing it. Who are your resources? Who do you work with on this? So it's really hard to identify where the gaps are in the plan if we're not really sure we've done it. We've never had to. And so Firestorm recommends that we think about who's the newest person in our building, and let's go ask them some questions and figure out if they know what we're talking about in case of a crisis. So Firestorm recommends a simple approach, and that is, let's establish a team of at least 3 staff people, trusted employees, to read your plan, conduct interviews, and then perform a site inspection to determine. And I think we're advising, is it reviewed and updated at the very least annually? So when was the last time, if when you take it off the shelf, or if it's electronically, you're blowing electronic dust off of it because it hasn't been touched since 1996, we need to review that. But Linda, I know you are recommending that we're doing that at least twice a year now. Is that right?
Well, the industry kind of goes back and forth on this, but absolutely, I think it has to be commensurate with business impact and risk. And there are certain parts of your plan that don't change as much as others. So, call lists and critical lists of suppliers, et cetera. All of those things that are more volatile need to be checked. Could be even quarterly or less. So it has to be customized to the information that you're referring to, as well as your own impact should that be affected. The other thing is, there's other ways other than checking plans. I'm a big proponent of making sure you do it hands-on. So during your exercises is the best way to make sure people are trained, as well as you're vetting the actual information itself. So yes, absolutely no less than annually. There are certain sections that have to be done more often, and to make sure that you're, as coming out of your test, that you're also updating those plans based on what you found during those tests. You can also engage internal audit. All of those things are ways that you can perform the measurements against a certain measuring stick.
And Linda, I'm thinking back to an organization that I'm familiar with, that while this is on the technology side of a risk, there was a lot of just checkbox compliance, and they didn't really review anything unless there was a significant reason, or they were being forced to do so. And one of the things that they never looked at or reviewed or really identified as a risk was something called deprovisioning former employees from the various databases and applications. And what they didn't realize was that they had, for a period of 8 months or more, an employee was very disgruntled, quietly sabotaging, because it was someone from the IT group, and he was just very quietly injecting code and sabotaging because his access code still worked. So even something that small can create a significant disruption down the road if you're not sitting down as a group and actively assessing each risk. We also want you to be able to monitor each threat or risk. So we're going to look at all of your identified threats and risks and then be able to say, how do we monitor if this is happening? If we're saying that the political climate may present a risk to us, okay, how do we monitor that? What might that risk be? If we're saying that the plant being built next to us on our property, if someone, for some reason, there are protesters and eco-terrorists out front, is that going to affect our business? Okay, great. How are we going to plan for that? How are we going to change things for that? Who are we going to talk to? And how are we going to monitor that risk? Do our employees and managers know about the plan? Have we informed everyone? And, we always talk about businesses in silos and communication silos and how we have to break the silos down. And as soon as we break some silos down, we create others. So we really need to remind ourselves that a healthy organization is an organization that understands the value of clear, concise communication. People value when they are communicated to clearly and they understand direction. So make sure everybody knows about our plan. And again, have we tested at least annually? And to Linda's point, not all parts and pieces need to be tested annually, but are we at least making that effort to do so? And does every activation or exercise, so anytime there actually is an activation of the plan, or when we're testing that plan through an exercise, do we do a hot wash afterward? And are we open and honest with ourselves about what weaknesses we have identified, what the gaps are, and what we are going to do in order to reconcile or resolve those gaps before the next instance. So we can look at, let's start with, if today we're just going to do a site assessment. You know, interestingly, we had an organization we did a site assessment for that that was in Nicaragua. And it was very interesting because we actually did the site assessment virtually via, there's so much fabulous software out there today that we were able to walk the property with them through video. And at the end of that site assessment, we're able to say to them, okay, now that you've addressed A, B, and C, we also noticed there's a large apartment building next to your property, and the balcony from one of those apartments allows access directly to your roof. What have you done to protect against that? And the organization said, no, it doesn't. There's no access to our roof from someplace else. And we were able to play back that video and show them that someone could easily just jump down about 6 feet from the balcony to the roof of their building. I also want to let you know that as the person who oversees our monitoring program on social and traditional and new media, I cannot tell you how often, and I think I've told you this before in other sessions, we were doing the monitoring for a very large real estate investment trust, and the property consisted in one location of a medical center, a huge medical center, many parking facilities, and a significantly large mall. And as I have mentioned before, I was really surprised at how many people ingest illicit drugs, buy alcohol while they're at work, and go up to the roof and hang out. And the risk that poses is frightening to me. So there are a lot of people partying on the roofs of places, and we need to remember that that's a risk as well. So as a part of your physical site, and I don't mean to make light of that, but please, we do need to remember that. So as we look at the site assessment detail, we want to make sure that we're hitting all of these key pieces: building security. What about that access control? Lock in, lock out. What's your key system like? What are your sight lines and surveillance? Sadly, we have learned a great deal from a number of events over the past 5 years that have taught us about windows and their ability to absorb significant impacts. If someone drives a truck through the front of your building, what's in the way? What can keep it from coming in? What will be destroyed? We have to think through those scenarios. In your communication system, do you have a public address system or some sort of communication system, radios, intercoms? I was looking at a product the other day that I'm sure has a business application. It's it's called a texting walkie-talkie for your phone. And it's a way to voice communicate. You can voice communicate with groups through a texting application. And I was thinking through that probably has some good application for risk notification. Of course, IT, information technology, social media monitoring, what's the assessment on that? And I think you've heard me say this before in many other sessions. In almost every situation that I've seen in the past 8 years, when there has been a significant crisis at an organization, immediately that website has crashed, because every media outlet and curious person on social media hits the website to see if there's any information posted on the website. And having your website go down for even a short period of time may cause such a business disruption or income loss to you, especially if you have an e-commerce piece to your business. You cannot afford to have that happen. So if you haven't done load testing, you really need to make that a priority this year. Have you looked at your loading docks access points there, lighting, parking. You know, I was working on a project a few years ago at a really significant call center, and the call center was located in a mall, and there were probably a good 320 people in the call center, not a huge call center, a good-sized call center. And the front of the building the windows were masked over, so it looked like it was closed. You didn't really know what was going on in there, and the only access was through the back, through the loading dock, through a locked key card door. I never used a key card to get in the building. Every morning, I just hitchhiked right behind somebody else, and nobody even questioned. I smiled, I looked official, and they let me in the building. That's a problem. That's a real vulnerability. So as we go through this list, these are just some of the items that you really want to think about. Your security personnel, are they proprietary security force? Are they contracted? How are they trained? There was another mall that we worked with where after hours, someone tweeted that she and her friend had gone to see a movie. They'd fallen asleep at the end of the midnight movie, and they were locked in the mall, and that they had gone to security personnel to tell them they were locked in the mall, and that security personnel laughed at them. Well, we don't know that that's true. We don't know if they really laughed at them or not. But this was something that was tweeted out, and suddenly everybody was up in arms because there were these poor people that were locked in a mall and security wasn't helping them. So little things like that we need to walk through. Do we have a policy for that? How could someone get locked in our mall overnight? Have we looked at that? Security sensitive areas, signage, traffic control, so all of these pieces and parts. The last thing I'll leave you with on this site assessment was, you know, as we look at our garages and vulnerable places in parking garages, or if it's not your building, you simply have a floor or offices in the building, and we look at those parking garages, looking for signs that there is other activity occurring. We had another facility where I know the first rule about Fight Club is not to discuss Fight Club, but there was a Fight Club that was meeting in their garage after hours. So it was a real problem and a high insurance risk for them. Linda, do you have anything else you'd like to add to this particular slide?
I would just reiterate that it's important to get your eyes and your feet on the ground. You brought out some really great examples, Karen, of where you think everything's okay until a fresh set of eyes sees it. I've had the same experience. I've walked into a data center and there was a big golf umbrella right over their main processing unit because they were afraid of some drainage over the data center. Oops. Okay, that's a contingency plan, I guess. But all of these stories are just to let you know. You are from New Jersey, but pretend you're from Missouri, the show me state. So go look for yourself and have them show you what good processes and where you might actually discover some gaps.
So Linda, would you mind going ahead and just sort of transitioning into this next piece? Where
Sure.
And how does your plan address the following? That'd be great.
Sure. So we talked about why and a little bit about how, and then here's the key question. What do we measure against? There's a lot of different ways you can go about this. Everybody's probably familiar with ISO 22301, came out in 2012, and thankfully for our industry, business continuity management is accepted really around the world as the leading measuring stick for making sure you're designing a solid business continuity program. So that first bullet, program framework, you can write your own, you can adopt from others, or you can even use existing standards. And from that point, you want to go through each of the areas that are on here to make sure that you're measuring against those industry standards or the standards that you have enacted for your unique situation for human resources, emergency response, notification, crisis communications. Can your executives actually communicate and know who to talk to during a crisis? And as we begin to look at the measuring process, then let's keep it easy, right? I'm a big fan of the KISS principle. Keep it simple, silly. So we're going to have 4 levels where it just says, is it documented? And is it well documented and aligns with those best practices we mentioned? Or is it really just in place and people talk about it? There's no documentation, but they talk about it, they're educated, they understand it, it's verbal. And then we move into the areas that we really want to hopefully not see a lot of, but if you do, this is where you can focus. It's incomplete. It's acknowledged that it lacks those essential details, or if it's just not in place at all. So we've talked a lot about different data points that you should be looking at, and then against each of those data points, assign a simple rating key, just as we've done here.
And in a couple of slides, I believe it is, there's actually another rating key. So you don't have to go with this one thing, or there are different rating keys that work for your organization. When we talk about documented, of course, we want to, and thank you, Linda, I'm sorry, didn't say thank you. My mother would be appalled. Components of the plan, again, they're written in alignment with best practices. How do you know you've got best practices? You know at any time, because you're a member of the New Jersey Manufacturing Exchange Program. You can call Blair Neville at Firestorm, or any of us, and we'll talk with you for an hour. There's no fee for that. We'll do an assessment for you. There's no fee for that. We want to help you align to best practices, and that's what we're here for. So, you know, if you're not sure, just give us a call. Let us help. We want to make sure your procedures are actionable. You want to make sure your content is comprehensive and provide stakeholders, again, with that clarity of their roles and responsibilities within the plan. We know that some people appreciate clear direction. Plans, again, have to be actionable, right, and follow best practices. And in the next slide, we're going to look at the standard response protocol. I mean, this is one of those things that's a best practice. This makes the difference. It's like the incident command system. It has a very specific vocabulary, but allows for a little flexibility in lockout, lockdown, evacuate, or shelter. The standard response protocol differs between lockdown, where interior doors only are locked, and lock out, where exterior doors are locked and locking out a perpetrator. We have seen, for those of you who may also be involved with or have been on collegiate campuses, one of the things we saw with the last incident that was on a college campus was that the doors could not be, where people were sheltering in place, could not be locked from the inside. So people were using a variety of methods to try to get those doors to lock. So we need to understand that. What's our protocol? Do we understand where our people are safe, or are we making them more vulnerable? Firestorm does recommend the standard response protocol as a best practice. As we discussed, here's another sort of code you can use, real simple. Are your plans incomplete or undocumented? I personally like the revise. The world's changing very, very quickly. There are new threats every day. And so now that we know that there are threats from, I don't know, phishing, or somebody sticking a flash drive somewhere where it doesn't belong, and as soon as I thought that, it doesn't sound right when I say it, but you know what I mean. So we have to revise because we have threats that we've identified now that we really need to speak to. So the tool that we have, and again, you can reach out to Blair and walk through this process, but do something simple for yourself. We're going to list out all of the components of your plan, and then we're going to walk through a checklist so that we understand always how complete it is, where it's located, have we trained on it, and have we tested it. Linda, if you don't mind, I'm going to put on you just one more time to talk to these next 2 slides. because the detail on it is quite a bit. And I want to talk about completeness where trained and tested, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, absolutely. It goes back to my joke a little earlier about make sure you're from the show me state. Whether you're talking over the phone with one of the Firestorm resources to help have that independent validation, have a fresh set of eyes, or you're taking a checklist like this to your teams, you want to make sure that you push a little bit on, are these components actually complete, and show me where they are. Are they easily accessible to everyone who needs them? Are they accessible even if the internet or their access is down? And most importantly, are they familiar with it? Have they been through an education program and understand how far the policy covers and what the clear roles and responsibilities in that policy are? Their role during crisis management and crisis response in each of those areas. Making sure they're comfortable. Our whole idea here is we want to make them ready to act, not react in a stressful situation. So walk down through each one of these, ensuring that it's accessible, where that people understand it, they're educated on it, and it actually works. And the best way to do that, short of an actual activation, of course, is to make sure it's tested. So make sure that you have tested your crisis communication plan, that and you've done it with the right people too, making sure you get the executives in the room that would be leading that communication response along with your trained media personnel, is all the way through to the bottom, and making sure that you have a plan for maintaining all of this information, not just the plan. The plan is just an accumulation of all of these data points we've been talking about. They all make up a comprehensive program, and that is what we want to help you build, is a comprehensive program that makes sure that you're ready to act, not react, during a stressful situation. So these are the components.
But that's really it.
It is. That's what this is all about, and having each one of those components in place and people know where to find it and and it's tested. That is really a solid program when it's all working together.
And I think that check that we talk about, go to your newest hire. Go to someone who's been in your organization for 90 days. Say, here's a scenario, what are you going to do? And just see what the answer is. It opens your eyes to where communication and training may be needed and required. The other thing I want to offer to you and remind you of is this year Firestorm is going to be conducting a series of 6 of our really groundbreaking virtual stress test exercises. And these are little mini exercises. You gather your team in a room or a couple of rooms, dial in, and we have a 2-hour virtual stress test. And it will, at least in a little microcosm, give you insight into, without doing a full-fledged 3-day tabletop exercise, we've got a little microcosm window we can show you of how your team responds. We did, again, many of these last year, and thank you to those of you who sent us pictures of your teams in conference rooms, planning and working together, responding to the questions and listening to the session. We have one coming up on February 2nd, and it's an interesting one. It is on risks to businesses and other organizations from employees and others live streaming, either on our properties or so those people up on the roof who are doing illegal things, you know somebody's going to live stream that, so we're going to talk about the risk involved in that. So please do join us. Go to firestorm.com events. As always, we ask that you predict, plan, and perform. Understand your vulnerabilities and threats, develop policies, processes, and procedures, and test and train on those to build your comprehensive program. Next steps. Talk to your senior leadership regarding your strategic risk concerns. Please update your threat analysis. Talk to us. Talk to Blair Neville, can certainly assist you with that, Joe Cartenuto. Also, conduct security assessment, align your plans to best practices, and analyze also your coverage versus your current plans. Again, in the next 48 hours, we'll have a brief of this session put up for you. We really appreciate your attending. Welcome to January. We look forward to seeing you for the next 11 months. And Joe, do you have any closing words for us?
Not really, Karen, but I think that both Linda and you did a great job on it. And companies obviously need to test these plans and do assessments, and that's one of the reasons that we offer the no-cost assessment, which manufacturers can order through njmep.org or through firestorm.com to get that free assessment for business continuity.
Thank you, Joe. And Linda, do you have any closing comments? And I want to thank you very much for joining us today, by the way.
Oh, well, no, thank you for the invitation, and it was nice to meet everyone, and I look forward to working with you in the future. And you know, as a newbie, I can say this: hey, a free assessment, spend an hour to help identify some of these gaps and begin to put your plan for the rest of the year together. That sounds like a late Christmas present to me.
That's a great comment. Thank you so much to our moderator, Bill Baker. Thank you all for joining us today. Visit us at firestorm.com. Comment, questions, webinars at firestorm.com. We appreciate your attendance today, and this will conclude our call for today. Bye-bye.